welcome members to this session on disability inclusion. Like you have heard, disability is an agenda that needs to be on the table and not on the menu. All the time when we are talking about women and women rights and human rights, without discussing in detail disability inclusion and involving people with disabilities in the discussion makes the agenda sometimes be forgotten. So like you've heard, my name is Sarah Modhoni, and I'm the chair of the Association of Professional Women with Disabilities. And I bring to these discussions ways we are going to discuss how persons with disabilities and what strategies and support can be put in place in order to have them take up leadership positions and leadership roles even in our country. And I know leadership cannot be spoken without talking about political participation of women with disabilities. And this means that women with disabilities need to come to the forefront so that they can participate in the electioneering process and also be nominated or elected as such and given the positions that they can be able to make decisions on behalf of other women with disabilities. So to start this conversation, we have Jonani Loam from the World University Services of Canada, who is a panelist in this discussion. We also have Gladys Gitonga, who is a member of the National Steering Committee. And we have Josephine Kakoma from the Kenya National Women Deaf Network. This will bring the different issues and the different rights that persons with disabilities, especially women with disabilities, face from day to day, and what needs to be done for them to be included and to participate fully in the same level with other people without disabilities. The issues around inclusion include issues of accessibility, issues of information in accessible formats, issues of leadership in political spaces, economic empowerment, and generally leadership capacity building, because we see sometimes it's because of not having the capacity that maybe they are not able to present themselves for such positions. And even emerging issues like now climate change issues and impacts that they have on women with disabilities as a whole. So I want to ask our first panelist, Jonani Loam, to just briefly talk to us about disability inclusion within leadership roles, which has gained a lot of attention because of the way we find them missing in action. Yet we have a lot of challenges that persist. And drawing from your gender experience as a gender equality and social inclusion advisor, how can civil societies actively promote the inclusion of persons with disabilities in decision-making processes? What strategies can be implemented to counteract the attacks and biases often faced by persons with disabilities seeking leadership positions? Jonani, you're...
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for Crown Trust for organizing this wonderful event. Thank you for inviting me to be one of the panelists for this important discussion. I'd like to start by saying, Sarah, that as civil society organization, we are in a unique positions to drive advocacy and movement towards the inclusion of persons with disabilities. How do we do that? We also, as civil society organization, we need to be exemplary. What are we doing to show our commitments towards inclusion of persons with disabilities? before we start going to knock at the doors of other people and other institutions, as civil society organization, we need to also demonstrate that commitment by actually taking proactive steps in inclusion of persons with disabilities. If we don't do that, the people that we go knocking at their doors, that we advocate for them to also join the movement, will not actually see the realization and will not see the need why such things have to be done. Civil society organization can do so many things to ensure that inclusion of persons with disabilities in leadership role is actually something that is pushed forward. I'd like to say that when I reported for my assignment in Kenya with the Kenya Climate Innovation Center, one of the first things that I did was to form Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Council at Kenya Climate Innovation Center. So I think that this was a very good step, and I had an extensive discussion with our CEO why Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Council was very important for the organization. This is a council that will be looking at issues to do with diversity and inclusion of especially marginalized groups of people within the organization, but also among the staff. So this was one step which I think it is important that civil society organization take this proactive step to ensure that inclusion of persons with disability is something that is driven forward. Being exemplary starts even with us as individuals. We were outside here for breakfast, and I know that among us, there are people with physical challenge, and they couldn't stand on the line for a long time. How many of you actually took a proactive step to ask them to sit down, and you went and served tea, you brought it to them, by show of hand? So you see, we have to actually take a proactive step to actually demonstrate that, you know, we care about persons with disabilities and that their inclusion matters a lot. We also need to identify the challenges that they are facing so that we are able to come up with ways in helping them. Sarah, I'd like to talk about one of the ways in which we can actually promote the inclusion of persons with disability, especially in leadership, is to develop an inclusive policies. We need to develop an inclusive policies within our organization which demonstrate our commitments toward inclusion of people with disabilities, especially in leadership roles, so that they can also be involved in higher decision making that affects not only them, but also other members of the society. We also need to raise awareness, especially civil society. We need to raise awareness and educate our members about the important roles that people with disabilities can actually bring to the society. This kind of awareness is very important so that people start to see them as members of the societies who equally have the ability to contribute towards the development of the society. We also need to build capacities of persons with disabilities so that they are able to acquire necessary skills that will be used, that they can apply those skills in leadership. And we also need to train them in skills like communication skills, negotiation skills, and we also need to be able to empower them so that they understand what their rights are. And once they understand their rights, they will be able to demand for nothing less than their rights. We also need to create partnership. We need to come up with mentorship program and networking. We need to, connect people with disabilities with the mentors within organizations so that they can be given guidance, and so that the mentors will work with them so that they gain valuable insights in leadership, but also they gain valuable confidence that they would need to apply it in leadership, but also to take it on decision-making tables. It is also important that we amplify voices of people with disabilities, because there are successful people with disabilities who have actually done incredible things, but their voices out there is not being heard. I don't know how many of us know Stephen Hawking. Do we know Stephen Hawking? He is arguably the most famous and most influential scientist, and is a person with disability. And he changed the way people look at person with disability, because what he managed to bring in the science community was incredible. He's a physicist. So we need to actually celebrate and actually amplify voices of persons with disabilities, especially with the successful things that they're doing, so that people can actually see them as people who equally can contribute, and people who must be included on decision-making tables, and people who must be promoted so that they take up leadership roles that benefit not only them, but also the society. While we do this, I think it is important that we always continuously collect data and monitor implementations of existing policies. Collecting data is about the disability, collecting disability disaggregated data will help us to drive meaningful advocacy, which is based on evidence about the underrepresentations that is currently facing persons with disabilities. Sarah, you also asked me about what other strategies we can actually employ to ensure that we counteract the biases that is directed at persons with disabilities. I think we need to empower them so that they are able to respond to this attack and biases that is directed to them. Not in a confrontational way, but so that they are able to articulate what they can bring to the table and their contribution. We also need to come up with policies like zero-tolerant policies to discriminations, especially in organizations that demonstrate our commitment, and then punishment, sanctions that are actually directed towards people who discriminate, people with disability, or any other person within the organization. I think that is very important.
Thank you for that very elaborate ways on how we can include and make sure persons with disabilities are not left behind. I would like to call upon now Josephine from the Kenya National Women from the Deaf to also tell us about the challenges that women who have hearing impairment, how they face challenges when it comes to trying to seek these leadership positions, and how these barriers that they face can also be overcome so that they can also find themselves in those tables where people are making decisions at. Josephine.
Thank you very much, the moderator, and also thank you, Crown Trust, for giving me an opportunity to be here, and also for the recognition. I think my brother has talked about all the points that I wanted to share with you about persons with disability. And also, you know, I'm speaking with the interpreter, and they were here smiling with the paper, whatever we had prepared to come and present. And it's like he has talked about persons with disability, and I really don't want to repeat what he has said, but I would want to just add a few things that we had, like the challenges that we face as a disability community, whether physical, whether you are deaf, or any challenge that you have had. And I think we have all heard what he has said about the challenges that we have. So now I'll talk about the deaf, on the area of the deaf persons. Mostly, you know, we have a challenge with communication, and also the barriers that we have. For example, if I don't have an interpreter, and also for the campaign, and if I stand in front of you and I start signing, you might not understand. Actually, you won't understand what I'll be saying. It is a great barrier for us, which we face even when we go to the campaign trail, when we are asking you for the votes. So that's why we keep insisting we need to learn sign language. We need to have it. We learn it and are speaking it. But for now, I think I have seen someone came in to greet me during tea time, and then because I've not spoken to them, they have just thought, I don't know what is happening, and they thought I was just ignoring them. You know, I had a baby sister, and the parent would not communicate with us. Like for me, my parents and also my sisters would not be able to communicate with me. So going through the education system, and now that I grew up, and I have a baby girl, and my body changed from young to an adult, and I had to give the information. So anytime I met the women, like the Daisy, for example, I cannot tell how I'm feeling, you know, if like I am the daughter, it's very difficult for me to express myself to you if you are my mother, because you don't understand my language. So I am just alone. When maybe when I get to I have menses or something, or I am also on menopause, it is very difficult for me to air my challenges to you and also communicate. So that is one of the biggest barriers that we have. On the societal attitude towards us, they believe that the persons with disability are not able to lead, or they see us like a curse, you know? Most of the families who are there, they will lock us in or lock persons with disability. That has been there from time immemorial. So right now, as we grow up, you had been hidden all the way. You don't know how the world is out there, and you're never out. So even for advocating for your rights, and also you're not able to lead. So for all of us who are here, and the ambassadors or the communities, to advocate, and also to become the ambassadors of advocating for persons with disabilities. Stop hiding the persons with disabilities in your families. Don't hide them. Don't hide the children. Even in school, before my parents, before I was deaf, they felt the burden. Up to now, my parents, the society has the burden with me. So right now, as I don't know, they feel like, I felt like I would commit suicide because I was not shown that love at that time. So now we know very well that Kenya is very good in policy, papers, education, you know. So anytime you're vying for a position, you need some qualification. Maybe you need a PhD or you need a master's. So for us, the deaf people, our education has always been a challenge. The system and the curriculum has not been favoring us from time immemorial. So sometimes when you're done with the primary school, you're taken to the vocational training. And that you are taught like being a tailor, that's what, not a degree. So you become, anytime you want to vie for something, for example, in my situation, when I became deaf, 18 years old, I was, I think, in Form 4. So in 1996, when there were no deaf schools. So anytime you will drop out and just go, you are deaf, there's no sign language, people don't understand you, it's very difficult for you to learn the sign language. So you are stressed up. I'm deaf, what do I need to go and do? For 10 years, I stayed at home with nothing because I was just given that short course. So it was a big challenge for me. So if I explain for me what I have learned through you, I am motivated to become a leader, and I'm lacking papers. I'm a good leader, but I don't have papers. So I decided to go back to school and learn so that I am able to vie. And then for political position. But now when we are here, if you clap, now I'm not able to hear. You need to clap for me like that. Yeah, thank you. This is how you're supposed to be clapping for me. So you see, I hear through my eyes. So for me, whether you clap like that, I will not hear. I'll maybe think that you're doing some other sign. But when you do that, I feel happy and I feel like I'm in heaven when you clap for me in the deaf way. Thank you. So right now, the financing and also for persons with disability, we don't have that. The jobs, where are we getting these jobs from? And also the businesses, we don't have them because, again, there's so many challenges. If you want to vie, for example, to pay the membership in a political party, when you are campaigning, when you come to me and you want to speak to me, I'm not able to waive or give anything to people. So even in transport, where am I going to get that money? The interpreters, you have to pay them. The leaders, so there's no that support that we usually get. So I'd want to request all of you, as you think about supporting us and also financially, in finances, maybe economic empowerment. We are able to finance and also to strengthen us as we are vying for these political positions. In the societal attitude towards us, we got one MCA in Nyeri County. He's a deaf man. When he was being sworn in, people on Twitter would just give some negative comments, you know? And they would say, no, how does UDA employ or just nominate somebody who is using the hand, somebody who looks like he's mentally retarded, you know? Those are some of the negative messages that we were getting there. So for the accessibility also, when we go for the campaign, some of these areas or these fields that we go, they're not accessible to us. So I'll give an example like today, Crown Trust, for example, yeah? Yes. You, as you're planning for this meeting for persons with disability, you know, as the panel here, but imagine this ground that, is it accessible? There are stairs. You see how our sister might have struggled coming up all the way to the stairs, you know? We must start with ourselves as we talk about inclusion. Not just advocating from outside, but being here. Let's try and level the ground for us, at least. If it is about the stairs, just putting in a ramp if you are using a wheelchair, not the stairs, you know? The stairs were not accessible. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think I think I'll give the next person to speak, because all of you here will change our attitudes towards persons with disabilities, yeah? When we come even to your offices to come and meet you, sometimes we have the lifts, we have the lamps. It's fine. Some of them are very difficult. They are third floor or fourth floor. We are not able to come up to your offices some of the times. So when we come and we meet you there, maybe we'll need to come. I feel like it's too much for me. So maybe you think I don't want to enjoy coming to your office upstairs, you know? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for...
you don't... Yeah, thank you now. Yeah.
For advocating for even accessibility issues. We know accessibility is not just physical, but even on the information. Like if we don't have Braille, if we don't have large fonts, if we don't have sign language interpretation, persons with disabilities are left behind when it comes to access to information. And on the same note, I would like to ask Gladys Gitonga, who is from the National Women's Steering Committee, to just also tell us about how participation of women with disabilities has become a challenge, and what strategies they could put in place for them to be able to achieve those positions in leadership with a mind of what the Women's Steering Committee can also assist and do. Thank you. Welcome, Gladys.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Crown Trust, for having us here. We appreciate your the recognition of the persons with disabilities and trying very hard to accommodate them and make sure that they are able to be in your meetings, in whatever you're doing. You try very well. When you make when you propose things, I know that you've done quite a bit of improvement in accommodating persons with disabilities in our meetings. And it's a continuous process. You can't learn everything at the same time, because I'm sure when they were considering this, there is so much that you can see there is effort, that they were able to get a place where we can move around, where we can have access to washrooms that a person with a wheelchair can access. And that when you're moving around now, when they like, it's just now like the podium that is not accessible. But it's also good when you're looking for a location. This place is not accessible for somebody with a wheelchair and using public means. Yesterday, Melody, there's a lady here, a young lady called Melody. She uses a wheelchair, and she couldn't use public means or matatus. We had to get an Uber for her because you can't cross to the other side when going to town. There is no access to crossing to the other side.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe for, even when you're looking at the location, it's the way yesterday Daisy was saying that when you're not in a certain position, you don't remember certain details, because if you're using a car, you're okay. But for someone who is using a matatu, it's a different case. Yeah, and that is how people get left out in things, or maybe unable to participate. And even as we hear, I think that the thing that we would start thinking about, there's something that Jana has spoken about. Most of the time we wait for what the government is doing, but you as an organization, or you as a person, how do you handle persons with disabilities? What do you do for persons with disabilities in your organization? Because that's where leadership starts. Because when we're here on this podium, maybe people are expecting us to talk about getting to political leadership positions. But if you want to build a leader, you start from where you are. And where you are is you as a person, you as an organization. Like the government has made effort to make sure that they have reserved places. Maybe it has not worked very well, they have not achieved, but there is effort. What about in the organization? Do you have persons with disabilities working for you? Are your premises and your information that you have, is it accessible? Do you, like for procurement, the way there is AGPO, is there anything that you do for procurement, maybe to reserve something for persons with disabilities? Because that's where we start. Because if you want to make a leader, you start where you are, and you also start small. Like in our CBC curriculum, for the deaf, that's where we started from the child. The CBC curriculum for the one that the new curriculum, there's nothing, they haven't developed materials. I was talking to she's here, a lady who is a teacher for children who are deaf, and they don't have materials. They have to know how to convert whatever materials the government has given so that the children can be incorporated in the new curriculum. As an organization here, can you think of adapting one of the deaf schools? Because they need the materials. If they are approved by the government, and they can go and recommend, and because they are the ones who are teaching, if they make a recommendation, that can be used as materials to teach the deaf children. For the children who, like, there's a school in Isili that has a section for children with autism. The teacher is the one who is doing caregiving. The teacher is the one who is supposed to teach. If the parent doesn't come for their child from school, she's the one who is supposed to take them back to school. So what can we do? Can we try and do advocacy for children the way the schools provide for, like these days they have to be a counselor in schools. Why don't we have like caregivers in schools? Why don't we have physiotherapists in schools? Because the children with cerebral palsy and the autistic ones, they need therapy. Why don't we have the physiotherapists in schools as part of the requirements? And in that, no, and thinking about that, there is what we there is something called inclusive education, where they are trying that to see that all schools can accommodate children with disabilities, so that they don't, like, if a children has cerebral palsy, they don't have to look for a school where there is a unit. Because these children, as they grow, they won't grow in their own world. They are going to grow in a world that is where there is everybody. And that is where we should start even with our children. What do you tell them about persons with disabilities? How do you stare when somebody comes in with a wheelchair or a child with a disability? Are you the part of the people who stare and don't know how to react? And that is why we would suggest, in whatever, maybe in your capacity building, you can consider inviting somebody to help you learn the disability etiquette, how to handle persons with disabilities, how you can help them, because at times we give help which is the wrong help. Like, you don't ask if you find somebody maybe is on a wheelchair, you don't ask first how they want to be helped. So you assume they want to be pushed forward without asking first. If, like Josephine here is with a sign language interpreter, you want, or a blind person, the guide, you want the guide to give the answers, and you're not addressing the person with the disability, but you're addressing the guide or the person who is the sign language interpreter. Those are the small things that we need to learn about, which we can learn. We can start learning at our own levels. Not wait for the government to make an announcement that we are now going to start doing disability mainstreaming and trainings. You can do that in the organizations. And it's going to be so easy to create leaders, because when you learn what you're supposed to do, it will be so easy to move forward. And then for persons with disabilities, the mindset, when you're born with a disability, there is already a perception from the society. And that makes you maybe lose your self-esteem. It makes you not productive in the society. But if we have mentorship for persons with disabilities from a very young age, from the time they are teenage and as they grow, so that their self-esteem is still becomes, they are able to express themselves and accept who they are, I think we would have great leaders, and it will be easy for us to work as a society, not as persons with disabilities and people without disabilities. And I think working together, changing mindsets will be the beginning of making leaders who have disabilities.
Thank you, Gladys. I know disability issues sometimes seem very small, but it is that small step that we take that is going to cumulatively make those who have different barriers be able to access services and goods on an equal level with others without disabilities, and also play a become fully engaged and participate in society like anybody without disabilities. And we know we have, moving upwards, a constitution that has put those benefits for persons with disabilities. If you look at Article 54, where elective and appointive positions, 5% of them are supposed to be for persons with disabilities. But to date, we cannot even account for 1%. It is not there. So what are these regulations that are in place that we think we need to to do something about, to push. You know, sometimes we are told we have rights, yes, but unless you fight for your rights, sometimes you don't get them. So we have this constitution, we have other regulations and laws, the Act, the Disability Act, that allows persons with disabilities to access a lot of rights, which unless they fight for, it's not just given to them on a silver platter. I would like to engage Jonani from World University of Services to just tell us shortly Kenya's institutional framework that plays a critical role in ensuring disability inclusion. How can existing laws and policies be further strengthened to create an environment that fosters equal participation and representation for disabled people in various spheres in society, including politics? And are there specific amendments that you believe are necessary to address the barriers that persons with disability face as far as the laws are concerned? Just shortly.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Before I respond to that question, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the government of Kenya for some of the proactive steps they have taken towards recognitions and driving a movement towards the inclusion of persons with disabilities, even in leadership. You spoke about Article 54 of the Constitution of Kenya. Article 54, Section 1 up to E, speaks about various requirements that has to be given to persons with disabilities. Section 1A speaks about respectful treatment that should be given to persons with disabilities and referring to them in a respectful way, not in a demeaning way. The same article also speaks about right to access to institutions of educations. And then the same article also speaks about right to access accessibility of all places, including public places and transportations. Also, the same section talks about support to persons with disabilities to be able to communicate effectively. There is a particular article, Article 7 of the Constitution, which speaks about, complements Article 58 by saying that, by requiring that the Kenyan government promote the use of sign language and other indigenous language. If I remember correctly with what I read, is that there's been a sign language bill that was presented, and Senate already passed that. The sign language bill was presented and is waiting approval of Parliament. So sign language could potentially be the third official language of Kenya if that is approved. And that would be a very big move towards inclusion of persons with disabilities, especially in leadership positions and decision-making platforms. To respond directly now to your question, I think it is important that we need to form more collaborations and partnership with the organizations that are working towards inclusion of persons with disability and disability-focused network. Collaboration will ensure that the efforts and expertise of the members of the partners are tapped so that we can create synergy while we work towards inclusion of persons with disabilities. We also need to have, I think it is important also to actively involve persons with disabilities in decision making. We need to invite them in, at policy tables. We need to invite them at different committees that work towards formulations and implementations of policies. I think if we take this would be a very good step towards, valuing their input and inviting them on the table where they can learn also to become good leaders, but also they make decisions that, affects them. There's something which has always struck me is that when you look at the inclusion of persons with disabilities, especially in political positions, we find that there are still challenges that exist, and we need to address those challenges. We need to promote representation of persons with disabilities. I'm glad you spoke about 5%, which is reserved for persons with disabilities, but how much of that is being implemented? When political campaigns are taking place, how many sign language interpreters are actually there at a political campaign where they're doing doing interpretation so that even those who have some impairment and they cannot hear do understand the messages that are being passed by those political candidates. We need to have voting booth that is easily accessible to persons with disabilities, and like I said, that specific seats should be reserved for them so that they can also take up leadership position at various levels for sure. Then we also need to ensure that all engagement activities, events, materials, and information are accessible to persons with disabilities. If we do this, we will make sure that they are also included when things like sign language interpretation is there, when they can access documents. You spoke about access to document as as one of the ways of access to information as one of the ways of including persons with disabilities in all spheres of life. And so once access to information is something that is difficult for them to attain, then we will have denied them valuable information that will help them to participate in the various spheres of life. We also need to empower and build their capacity so that they can effectively participate in and understand negotiation skills, policy formulation, and implementation. This is one way of inviting them to, participate in the political processes of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would also like to get the perspective from Josephine. Knowing that we have support systems, there's nowhere we can work in silos. We need to work together as stakeholders so that we can be able to support each other from the different angles and the different aspects of rights that we are fighting for. And these support systems, are very pivotal in fostering inclusion. And from your perspective, what kind of partnerships and collaborations between organizations, government agencies, and civil societies are necessary to provide the necessary resources and support for deaf women who aspire to leadership roles? And how can these structures address both individual needs and systemic challenges that we see currently? Shortly, Josephine.
Thank you very much. What the support that we need right now, number one, will be breaking the communication barrier. That's the first and the most essential thing that we'd want. Everything else will flow if we have the communication barrier broken. We need to have support from government, the NGOs, so that we can strengthen our capacity. Also the mentorship issue. We have some of the deaf women who are really inspired and aspiring to vie for different places. And when they go for the campaign, most of the forums, they'll come and teach women how to do the public speaking, how to attract people, and how to do everything concerning public speaking. But for the deaf, I don't think we have gotten to that level. Also, we'll need to a lot of research to know how or what we have done right now or what we need to improve. Consult us, consult persons with disabilities when you are making the decisions. Because I think whether it's a good decision, it's a bad decision, we are the people who have the disability, maybe consulting us. And also whether you are doing the government or the public partnership, when you're looking for the deaf leaders, and deaf organization, consult them. Just try and listen to their views and their opinions. Sometimes we are left behind because persons with disability think that persons with disability are specifically those who are physically challenged. They don't know the hidden disability. Like there's the deaf, there are persons who are visually impaired, there's the mental disability, they're all there and they have the hidden disability. So a lot of them are left behind. Making everything accessible to all of us. And also, we know that media plays a key role in media is a very important tool. So sometimes when they are making their announcements, some of them they use some spoiled words or some of the demeaning words, you know. When they are calling the ignorant, I don't know whether they're ignorant or it's because they didn't have the correct names, they call persons with disabilities some derogatory words, like some bad words, you know. We are going back like to let me go to Kiswahili, for example. I just know a few Kiswahili words, though I don't know Kiswahili as a deaf person. There's one person who would call us kiziwi, and then I will call kipofu, kiwete, you know. KI, I think the facilitators who are learned here is in the class of Gelila V2. You know, you are seeing us as objects. We are like objects, you know, like a kiti, kikombe, you know. We are living things. We are breathing. So when you put us in that category or that Gelia V2, it sounds so bad for us. So for me, I am not able to hear, remember, but maybe I might not even be able to know which word that you are using. And then there's that word that you use, deaf and dumb. Who can tell me the meaning of the word dumb? I don't know if you have anybody who has a meaning for that word, dumb. Oh, all right, if you don't know, let me just tell you, dumb means somebody who's stupid, you know, or somebody who lacks intelligence or is not intelligent. So now, if you look at me, do I look like I'm not intelligent? And then why do you call me deaf and dumb? So why would you say Josephine is deaf and dumb, you know? Or you just say deaf and mute, you know? Mute or something that does not speak, you know, or has no sound, has nothing. But I do have a language. I have a language. I am able to express myself using sign language, and I have the interpreter there who will be there to help me. So anytime I'm presenting, I can present, I can preach, I know the Bible, you know. So God maybe chose me because to become a leader. Like Moses, who was speaking through the brother, you know, Moses was a stammerer. So he was not able to speak well. So what I need to say, all of us leaders, my interpreters are my voice, you know. Those are my voices. So anytime I think you think I am quiet, does that mean that I am dumb or I'm just boo-boo? No, I am not. I know some of the words that you would use like boo-boo, or it's okay, but I would appreciate the Constitution because it has recognized us, and there are different names that I use. The Constitution have the words that we'll use. So if you use the wrong word, maybe I can go and report you and you'll need to pay me. Maybe out there, the media needs to be sensitized on what they are speaking and how they are calling us, and also empowering us and not oppressing us on other bases. For example, we know one professor, someone who is well-educated, very educated, and the brother, when the brother came to support the person on a wheelchair, they'll go out and call, my brother cannot, hawezi, my brother hawezi. So we need to be supported. You support your children to pay the fee, the clothes. You have been doing that, and then somebody just goes and disgrace you and say that you are not able. Haujiwezi. You know, when you talk about haujiwezi, it's not like hatujiwezi. We are able. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One thing I forgot to also ask for as persons with disability because of interpretation. The time taken for that panel should be longer than the normal panel because more time for interpretation cannot be compared to what anybody else who's just talking directly does. So I think I forgot to ask that, but for the interest of the issues that are at hand, it's a time for us to do some panel discussions. We have questions, maybe to the panelists from the participants, but I would appreciate if you give me some extra, maybe 5 minutes for that, please.
For the questions, for the plenary.
Yeah, for the plenary, please. Yeah, we know they have spoken a lot about disability inclusion, and without collaboration and partnership, linkages and networks with other stakeholders around, we may not be able to make it and to get our rights achieved as we would like. So let's hear what the questions that you have, please.
Questions, maybe I can start because she spoke about the media. So what then would not be derogatory? Did you get the question? Because she said if we use kiwete, kipofu, it's like we're objectifying because of the ngeli. So then how should we, what's the preferred terminology? Okay, that was from me. There's a lady here with her hand up.
Finally, after 2 days raising my hand and not being picked. Good afternoon, beautiful ladies. My name is Evelyn Wanjiko. I'm the head of programs at Freer Girls World Network. Kudos to the panelists. That was a very good discussion, and thank you to Crown for putting this conversation and also including somebody from the disability. You know, we cannot be talking about disability and then you do not put somebody there at the panel to discuss these issues. Our organization basically does deal with women and girls empowerment, specifically the deaf. So I'm very passionate about this. So mine is not really a question, it's just a comment to what was being discussed by the panel. Few things that I've picked, a lot of advocacy is needed in our organizations. Even us as individuals, we have a role to play. You cannot say only the government, but you in your small capacity in your organizations. As Janani said, what are you doing in your organizations? Do you have somebody with a disability in your organization? What are you doing in your organizations? So that is a challenge to all of us who are here. The issue of political inclusion with persons with disabilities, and I'll share an experience. Our CEO, Ashura Michael, took a risk to vie for a position as senator in this beautiful county of Nairobi. Unfortunately, a lot of things happen, but I wish the leaders who are here and even the ones who are not here, who are not here, it's good for you to also do mentorship to these young women who are willing to vie for these positions. They're already women, so it's already a challenge. But now imagine a woman vying for a position with a disability. You see, everybody is against that person. But if you decide, just pick 5 women who are interested, mentor them to be great like you. So we'll be building a generation of young women who are vying for political seats. So more advocacy is still needed in our offices. Provision of sign language interpreters in banks, in schools, in hospitals. We experienced a challenge at Nyayo House when we went to renew our CBO certificate. And apart from the basic sign language that I know, and I was taught in fact by one of the interpreters here in Mine, it was a challenge communicating to the office. And it's a government institution, so more advocacy is really needed. But kudos to Crown for this opportunity, and for the team, continue fighting for the champion for the unspoken. Thank you.
All right, makofi ya Crown. All right, Mweni and Ms. Rehab, I'll come to you. But Mweni had a question here. There's the lady with the glasses. Here, I see the other 2 hands. And you?
Okay, thank you. And I'm happy that the persons with disability are speaking for themselves. I happen to come from a county. All the types are there in Machakos. We know we have the school for the deaf. We have the school for disabled, for the disability, and we have the school for the blind in Machakos. We have been engaging them in different aspects, but still we usually find a challenge in engaging them. And some of the challenges is how do we get to them be involved in governance? Yes, there are those who need the braille. There are those who need even the interpreters. And we understand some of them are very expensive. Just to give an insight, what we are doing in Machakos is that we have organizations who have come up with helping them. We have like the Blink in Machakos where they do the documentation for, they have a machine which can do the brailles. And what as organizations we usually do is we partner with them when we are doing this documentation. We pay a certain small cost for them to give us the materials. Okay. So as the organizations who are here, yes, we are leaving them out because we don't know how to involve them. But we need them in all outspheres. Okay. Let us come out and support them. Right. They can make the best leadership and they can be engaged and even engage those who will live at home. So we wish you the best, and we are looking forward to engaging more. Thank you.
All right, Winnie, you can just pass the mic on.
Good afternoon.
And I'll ask you, please, if you can keep your comments brief, so because we have another panel waiting.
My name is Suli. I'm an associate on gender empowerment and social inclusion with the cross-border program in the Kenya, Somalia, and Ethiopia borders. Thank you for the special panel, people who are sitting there. I don't like referring to you as persons with disability, but I like using the word persons with special needs. You're only special, but you are not disabled. So I have maybe 2 questions and 2 comments. Sorry, I have some homework. How far is the sign language bill? Is it still, at what stage is it now? The other thing is about mainstreaming inclusive education for all. Where I come from, Wajir, actually what she said is true, because we'll see a school, people saying the mentally handicapped school, the deaf school, the blind school, something like that. So I think we need to mainstream, we need to have inclusive education and making sure that all teachers and education stakeholders are trained, the media are trained, and they talk, good language instead of, stigmatizing people who are already left behind. The other thing is, you see, at the county government, there is the ACPO. I think most of you know the ACPO fund. So when we're talking about ACPO, it is women, youth, and everybody. So even the person they refer to with persons with disability, which I like to refer as people with special needs, are grouped there. So sometimes you see these persons are left out because of, all the, the special needs they have. They might not access the county government office, all that. So I'm asking the policymakers, if you are here, I'm sure some people from the government high ranking were here, or someone will talk to them. I think instead of having the ACPO, the persons, we refer to persons with special needs, I think we need to have a special fund for this group so that they can have their own access and they can be supported like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know there are some questions pending on that side. Tunakuja kwenu. But quickly, please, Mudhoni and Ms. Rehab.
For me, is really to appreciate the organizers of this conference. There is nothing as fulfilling as having your voice heard, being given an opportunity This is the first conference I am attending where we have the mainstream society, if I may call it so, but having a panel specifically for persons with disability and by persons with disability themselves. For me, as a person with disability, I really want to appreciate. I want also to say that mimi naoneanga wamama huruma wakati mwingine. Hata mizigo ya serikali ni wamama wanabeba. Si ndio? Now, hii ni pano ya wamama. They are the ones who have now appreciated. I can see people, and I know at any one time you talk about people with the disability, you will find here, when you're living here, you will have somebody talking about, I have a child, I have a grandchild, I have a person. What do we do to empower that person? But the most important thing I also want to say is that I wish this panel was there, or a person with disability was there, especially Josephine, when Anne Derito was here yesterday, and the minister. The reason I'm saying this is because there is so much legal framework and provisions in terms of mainstreaming persons with disability, empowering them. But we still have a big challenge in enforcement. So for me, is also to call upon the partnership of the women who have carried us all along, that we need your voice much more stronger with us in terms of enforcement of already existing. As much as we go trying to open new spaces, we still have so much that has not been achieved, but the laws are there, the framework is there, and they are provided for. So for me, it's just to applaud everybody, and any person with a disability who is in this forum today, I say kudos, because sometimes we also want to be mainstreamed, but we are also not there. So for all of you there, I really, really, really want to appreciate you. Thank you.
You can pass that to Mrs. Rehab.
Good morning. Is it good afternoon? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start by thanking Daisy. We organize very many meetings in Maendeleo, but I can tell you, not in the way you have done it, especially taking care of everybody. And we sincerely are humbled and thank you for really thinking through this. And that is why we have to be a team. Everybody has what they know different and what they do best. What we are calling disability, there are many people like we are standing today who have been disabled when they are the way we are. Through a road accident, unaanguka kwa nyumba, and you become disabled. It is not something we do not know and we have not lived with. In Maendeleo, Muthoni served as a national vice treasurer, Muthoni here, for close to 8 years. And Muthoni's disability does not limit her in doing very many things. Maybe it's just the running she can't do, but let me tell you, when push comes to shove, she can also run when it is her seat. She is getting, I think I have seen that. We have our national treasurer today, who has been a bank manager, Susan Owino, for many years, Standard Bank, and today she's using clutches. So what do we do when we are traveling? We do that what we need to do. And she's actually been my neighbor over that 5 years. She didn't have a disability. She fell right in her house. So this can find all of us. So what are we saying? We have the governor of Nairobi today. First of all, let's take out self-pity from this situation. Tusijione huruma. God knew at a time like this, you'll be born this way. And I have lived with a nephew who we lost in December for that 9 years. And he was okay at 3 years. He got measles. I was in the US. My sister-in-law called me. And by the time we arrived and go to the doctor, a pediatrician, he said he has lost thinking and all those things. And for 20 years, because my mother was alive, sorry to go there, when you arrived home, he knew you have come. And because I'm a first daughter in that family, I would call him Nawi Nikikamba, Nawi is dad. He would smile and do everything. But along the way, he started losing. So as a family, we decided never to take him to a home. So we nursed him until we lost him in December last year. So this goes with a lot of love. And because Kenyans, we have lost utu, even to all of us who are walking, then the challenges we have had from Josephine here. I think I want you to translate that. We are together after we finish. Even to ourselves, atuna utu. Even when we are driving, I want to get there before you, and we are on the highway, but my car must pass yours for no given reason. You know, really there is nowhere we are going. We are just going home. But I must speed to pass you on the highway, and there is no reason. The women seated here with a lot of humility, we are the people to rectify this. We have professors here, we have business people here, we have young girls here, we have all of us here, women leaders. So it is us to sit back and ask ourselves, so truly the stories we have heard, when you meet somebody at the lift, what do you actually do? Don't you just pass them and get in the lift because you are in a hurry? There's nothing like tuingie lift, wewe after you. Hatuna kitu kama hiyo Kenya hii. Hatuna kitu inaitwa sorry, I'm sorry, you don't die, just pass. Hatuna thank you, allow me to put everything, because this forum is very important. We don't have thank you. Yeah, we don't have. We don't say it. When did we say thank you last? When did we say asante sana last? And so these little things are what is making us hear what we are hearing today from Josephine and everybody.
All right.
So Daisy, allow me to finish. As we do the report, we have Agbo. We have been told how much went to the disabled people. Allow me to finish. How much went to the disabled people in Agbo, Rahab in Maendeleo included. What went to the disabled? You and I spoke about the CBC curriculum, imesemwa. And I said, Professor Munavo, we sit together in the Council of Kaba Elders, and I'll take that to him. So we are trying to get solutions to the problem. So allow me, we look for solutions. So CBC materials and children, that Maendeleo can be tasked through Professor Munavo, who was in charge of this. We also know you import a car duty-free. Our national treasurer was able to get a car duty-free. We facilitated, we helped as an institution. How many of the disabled people know that your car is duty-free and you are also tax-free? Modoni knew that when she was in Maendeleo. So these are the stories, Daisy, we need to take out. Finally, because of the interest of time, I can see my girl here, is to say, if campaigning as a normal Kenyan, you go through what you go through, what do we expect Josephine to tell us she wants to campaign? Can we then lobby for nominated seats on this group of people? Yes. I rest my case.
All right, thank you.
Nomination, Daisy, advocacy on nominating the candidates. Because if we do nominate people, let's not nominate those ones who are also working. We know they work very hard for the political parties. That's okay, let them have their slots. But this is where our 2027 advocacy should be very seriously be part of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That gentleman will take it. Daisy, please, next time 3 days, so that we give everybody ample time. But tafadhali, 2 comments fupi mbili kutoka. I think there are some hands on this side. There's a lady in red and, okay, the lady in glasses here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think it is afternoon. My name is Irene. I'm a teacher, and I think I'm the one who Gladys was referring to. I need to get someone whom I can send to Sakaja, our governor, and or maybe he can hear me through media. In Nairobi, PP1 and PP2, the regular pupils, when they come to school, they get teachers waiting for them. But for this deaf child, they have no teachers. What are they thinking about them? Now that we are talking about CBC, we are talking about implementing it, there are no materials. Imagine CBC child, deaf child, they have no teacher.
Okay.
Please, fikiria mti ulio mchanga, uunde ukiwa pale chini, ukikua utunzwe, ukiwa mkubwa, they'll be leaders. Thank you.
All right. Please, there's a lady I promised there, and then I'll come to you very last one on this. Please keep it short.
My name is Veronica Kenyanjui from Kangemi Women Empowerment Center. I'm a product of Mrs. Kabira, Nancy Baraza. Organization was started after the Beijing conference, and we have been working on women issues. I had 2 questions yesterday. Let me take this opportunity to ask one of the questions about elections for, now that the chair of Maendeleo is here, about the elections of Maendeleo, because I'm the chair in Kangemi.
Okay. Hiyo shikilia tu hapo. Kuna open mic inakuja.
Okay.
Kuna open mic inakuja.
Also, I have a question on disability, because
quickly, please.
I have a challenge. Hata mimi nimejikuta tu vile chair amesema. I'm now using my stick. And I'm just saying, I was seated in the same table with Modoni at tea break, and there were 2 ladies with children who are challenged, and they don't know how even to access, to go for registration and even the funds. So I think we need more empowerment for the disabilities. And what else? I forgot.
All right. Ukikumbuka?
Yeah, and
Velona, fanya hivi. Velona there is one who's putting together the action points. A lot of them have come up. Ukikumbuka, take it to her. She'll write it down. All right, the final comment or question? No. Yeah.
Thank you very much. First, I want to thank Daisy and the entire team for this conference. I think we are learning so much. Now, I just want to make a comment, not a question. Okay. And I want also to base this on the previous speaker when she talked about how disability can come at any time. And that is true. And this is, we call it an open chama. You know, every day, yeah, you are welcome, because you never know the next minute what happens. Yeah, but there's one thing. This disconnect, I think, would require us incorporating some special units in our curriculum, right from primary. That way, we would always appreciate disability and know it's just part of life. You incorporate it right from maybe in primary. Second, the special unit would go also to include also issues of traffic. Because I know when we are in the road there, you even cease to be the same person. We are all competing against each other, going to different destinations. Yeah? But I think it's always good for me, Daisy, and our entire committee, let's think of how we can incorporate also issues of traffic, you know, so that we can understand. And I know in Russia, before you even get your license, you have to visit each and every hospital. And you are taken specifically to wards where there are these, accident. Those who are the patients who have been engaged, who have been, involved in road accidents, and then they talk. You have to engage them. It's an interactive session. They tell you why they ended up there. Some it's out of maybe alcohol and what have you. And that's how now, before you get that license, you appreciate and you take it very, Yes, not the way we just get some of Kenyans, I know they get licenses right from there. Yeah, you just brought a license in your house. You've never been to the road, and then you can imagine. Anyway, thank you. I just wanted to bring that into them.
Thank you very much. I know there's a young lady in a wheelchair who had wanted to say something there.
Okay, good afternoon, people. Okay, my name is Melody Mora. Melody Mora, a student at Thika Technical. Mine is just to encourage those mothers, those parents who have children with disability. I would like to tell you that charity begins at home. Once you love your kid will grow knowing that there is someone there caring for me. There is people outside there that are looking up to me. Yeah, and also learn to engage his or her siblings in various activities. Don't let your kid know that he or she cannot do. Please omit the word that you cannot do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Beautifully spoken. Sarah, mzigo ni wako, as concisely as possible, the questions that are pending.
Hello. Yeah, I want to give the panelists a minute to respond to the questions that were asked, and just be precise to the answer, especially on the issues of law, the bill, the sign language bill. Just be precise to the point. Nani, please.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I think there was only one question in that regard, and I'll defer the questions to Nancy. I just want to take this few seconds to actually talk about like the next action. For me, I think from now, I really hope I'm looking at individuals coming from organizations who are going to go back to their organizations and create what we call Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. By next year, when we converge for the same conference again, that council should be existing in most of the organizations where you come from. I am available if you need support and resources in coming up with those councils in your organizations. We can support each other. And then secondly, I hope I'm also looking at individuals whom refer to in Swahili as watu wa kuigwa, role model people who can actually demonstrate the needs and the drive to actually include persons with disabilities in all spheres of life. And I also understand that there are some officials from the government, maybe members of parliament from here. I challenge you that when you go back to parliament, please, you need to propose a bill that will exempt any business started by a person with disability from paying tax for the next 5 years of its first existence. And then for the EC, I think this is a very big challenge. I think by next year, this time when we converge for the conference, please make sure there's a consortium of organizations working towards the inclusion of persons with disabilities that has been formed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janani. We can ask Mdhoni for your last points and actions that you would like moving forward.
Let me just respond to just a few things that I've noted down. My sister who said that she refers to persons with disabilities as special needs persons. Let me explain why we call them persons with disabilities. It's the person first. not the disability first. So it's she or he is a person, but with a disability. When you say special needs, it becomes like there's something special about you. And it's usually globally accepted as persons with disabilities. So that is a term that is appropriate for most people. But you can, when you're with persons with disability, it's good you ask. If a person is deaf, ask them how you want them to, they want you to refer to them. If it's a person who has a physical disability, you can ask, just ask whether a person wants, or whatever term they want to be referred to them, but the common term for persons with disability is just that. And then about ACPO, I like demystifying ACPO because that's what I do every day. It's not as hard as people think it is. That's what I do every day. I do this because I have a passion for disability, but what I do every day is ACPO. So registration is not hard. It used to be hard, but right now you go to the website, to the ACPO website, the requirements are well listed, you attach your documents as long as you have the documents that they need. You know, it's good, the documents are there for regulations because they don't ask you for tax compliance. Why do you want not to pay tax when you're supposed to? And if you pay your taxes well, you're going to get, and whatever other registration, you don't have to have a CR12. You can just do a simple business name, and you'll be able to register your business. So ACPO is not as complicated as people do. Yes, it's hard because it has its challenges, because every step has its challenges, but it's doable. Yeah, and for registration, maybe because of time, it's if you want to benefit as a person with disability, you have to register. And the registration, as I'm saying, things have been simplified. It's if you get assessment from a government hospital, from the doctors from the government hospitals, they are there that do the assessment, you'll get registered by the National Council for Disabilities. Otherwise, I would say that we start disability inclusivity. You start by you. Don't think of what somebody else is going to do, but start from where you are. Thank you.
I think, sorry, Josephine, now, shortly, please, because of time, just your action points and just respond to the question on maybe derogatory language use.
Okay, I'll start with the words that we use when referring to persons with disability. We say the person, we see the person first, as Muthoni has said previously. We cannot, or somebody, a deaf person, in Kiswahili, mtu asiye na uwezo wa kusikia. That's the deaf person. Asiye na uwezo wa kuona, mtu asiye na uwezo wa kutembea. So if you just say the mama bubu, ni kama unamwagilia maji kwa huyo mtu. So ni mtu asiye na uwezo wa kusikia kwa Kiswahili. In my organization, we do the disability mainstreaming. We are teaching people sign language for accessibility, for communication, and other things. If you need to meet with me or you'd want to interact with me, you can meet with me and we can chat the way forward, because I have the interpreters here and Crown Trust has my contact. You can ask for my contact from Crown Trust though. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much.
That will be easier to make the world beautiful for all of us and inclusivity. Also, I just want something, there's somebody who talked about the KSL bill. We have a lot of challenges with the bill, at least. We started like in the previous parliament, where we had Senator Gertrude Musuruve, who was taking it up, but it was like a business. That's how, because she didn't consult us as the deaf people who are the user of that language. So it was her idea. So recently we amended that, and we came up with our own. So I think there's a Senate, they're supposed to be in the second reading, I think so, or it is being reviewed right now. It's in that level. So the name is Kenyan Sign Language Bill, not Sign Language Bill as it had been written previously. So yeah, I think after that I'll request the parliament that is right now there to try and regulate that on the policy. And right now people who are training sign language also, it's trying to regulate for persons with disability and also the teaching of sign language. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I want to appreciate the panelists and appreciate Crown Trust for giving us this opportunity to even talk about disability inclusion and really create that awareness and raise for those who don't have. My action point, my last point for Crown Trust, I would like to see a program, maybe starting now. We are saying for 2027, we want to start now. For women with disabilities who are interested in vying for political positions, if we can come up with a program or a funding so that we start mentoring them now, by 2027, we shall be somewhere different. So I am challenging Crown Trust to partner with us, Nothing About Us Without Us, the United Disabled Persons of Kenya as an umbrella body among other bodies, so that we can move together with Crown Trust and have a very elaborate and detailed activities around preparing women with disabilities for political positions in 2027. Thank you so much.
All right, Makofi Sarah and her panel. And we will need somebody to help Sarah come down. Sky Media, the guys you see in the green reflectors, have alerted me that there's something called the Kenya Business Disability Network, which is run by ILO. So it's free to join, and they assist businesses, is my understanding, on how to better accommodate persons with disability. Okay, but Gladys is available, I hope. If you need more information on AGPO, because you talked about registration, there's no time, she can assist with that. And Josephine has really stated that she is available to anyone who has any follow-up questions.
Woman, yeah, I'm a superwoman. Woman.